So we've made a number of artworks that entail collaborations with different communities. They all started with a hyper-local artwork that has since traveled to other cities and has more recently gone global, and that's the Lexington Tattoo Project. And we began the Lexington Tattoo Project 3 years ago because we were looking for a way to use what we were seeing as more vocal and more visible expressions of love for Lexington as material for art. And then we realized that it's an artwork about stories, and some of these are personal stories that people don't share with others. Some of them are personal stories that are shared publicly. But together they become the story of our city, of Lexington. This is Andrea James, former councilwoman, and we'll tell you her story in a little bit.
So 3 years ago, we asked Bianca Spriggs to write a poem as a love letter to the city of Lexington. Over the next many months, we designed unique tattoos for every word of that poem, photographed those tattoos once they were healed on the participants, and then made a video artwork with those photographs. At the start, though, Bianca opened herself to suggestions from the community, actually from the Facebook community, by posting on Facebook and social media, "Help me fill in this sentence. Help me finish this sentence. Lexington is the blank of the universe." You live in Lexington. You know that that could be filled in many different ways. While Bianca was assembling her poem from those suggestions, we were spending our time raising money to pay for 100 tattoos. And the reason we estimated 100 tattoos is we counted the average length of her published poems and imagined at the time that what we would do, every single word would be one tattoo. We wanted anyone who lived in Lexington and loved the city enough to get a permanent tattoo, to be able to participate without financial burden, and so we were committed to raising the money to cover the cost ourselves. And we imagined that anyone who went to the effort of pushing the join button on our Facebook page wanted a tattoo, and we were committed to giving them one. Then on Thanksgiving, which is when we had told everybody Bianca would deliver us the poem, she sent us this poem. Instead of 100 words, it's 476. And we had 2 days to turn the poem around and share it with the participants, whom we told we would give it to them so they could select their top choices. And in those 2 days, we had to either raise 5 times the money or come up with a different solution. We chose the different solution. We divided it into 253 phrases and then shared it with the people who had signed up on Facebook and asked them to pick their top 3 choices. So the first of many, many surprises of this artwork was the length of the poem. We didn't tell Bianca a specific length, and we encourage and enjoy all kinds of surprises. So the first was that. The second was that if you look up here, there are many phrases that you might choose not to have as a tattoo. But as it turns out, every phrase was someone's top 3 choice, including phrases that from the very beginning we knew were less than appealing. When we first talked about this project with a friend of ours, we said, with concern, that there is no way Bianca could write a poem without using the word "the." And surely nobody wants the word "the." And he quickly said, "I want that phrase, and I'll give you all the money in my pocket to get you started." His pockets weren't deep that day, but we did have $12.50. Other phrases that, again, people loved, and there were top 3 choices, but seemed particularly challenging, include the armpit, the dregs, and the overhang. Another surprise for us that we didn't anticipate from the very beginning, and partially this is because we didn't have tattoos before we did this. Neither one of us had a tattoo. So there were a lot of things we didn't know about tattoo culture. One thing we did not anticipate was that there would be a great number of people that participated not only to commemorate their love for the city of Lexington, but also to commemorate existing personal relationships they were in. There are 33 same-sex and heterosexual couples that participated as part of this that we knew of. We didn't know all of them, and potentially some more of them have connected since then, because if there are 253 people in your city with a tattoo and you love tattoos, you might fall in love with them. Mothers and daughters participated together. Sometimes, as with this mother and daughter, choosing consecutive phrases. So on the left, you'll see the mother's foot, and on the right, the daughter's foot. And sometimes, in ways that are very exciting to us, baristas at our favorite coffee shop, who also happen to be brothers, participated.
there were many other surprises for us along the way. We did not anticipate that we would end up creating a website and a blog as part of the Lexington Tattoo Project. And we did that because of a participant, Ondine Quinn. And Ondine is here. She already had 2 tattoos at the time she chose her Lexington Tattoo Project tattoo, and before she actually got it inked on her skin, she wrote about her tattoos in her own personal blog. And she talked about the significance of the word through for her. And she talked about how important it's been that she has passed through Lexington in her life, and that she would always pass through Lexington on the way from her mother's family in Florida to her father's family in Ohio, and just all the different ways in which passing through a place, through a relationship, have made her who she is. We knew Ondine at the start of this artwork. Of the 253 participants, we probably knew about 40. But we knew Ondine, and we saw her blog post. We thought it was really interesting because we had no idea that tattoos had personal stories, which is shocking to us now. And we asked her if we could share it with our Facebook community, and she said yes, and we shared her story. And then all of these other participants in the Lexington Tattoo Project wanted to share their stories. And we knew that unless we created a platform so they could share them and we could all read them, they would do it anyhow, but we wouldn't see their stories, most of their stories. And so we ended up creating a website with a blog, and on the blog for more than a year, we would feature every week, we would feature at least one participant with their tattoo from the Tattoo Project, and the story of that tattoo, why they chose it. And often it had nothing to do with Bianca's poem. And so Mick Jeffries is another participant, and he chose just like. He put the 2 words of this phrase on his feet, and he talked in his story about the significance of just liking things. So his tattoo became a mantra of sorts for him. He thought that it would be important to remind himself to just like things as they happen to him and not always approach unexpected things or things outside of his control with opposition and frustration. So it was really important for him to get this particular tattoo. And then Andrea James, whom we mentioned at the beginning, before brunch is her phrase. It was her top choice of all the words available. And she wrote about the significance of Sunday morning before brunch for her, because it's a time that's just her own time. She's very committed to the Lexington community, former councilwoman, and so she goes to a lot of community events. She's really busy, except she writes on Sunday mornings there are no community events. Her family is sleeping in, the dogs are quiet, and so it's a chance for her to be by herself and regenerate. And Nick Kunz, The Secret Identity, and Kurt is going to read his actual narrative from the book.
There are some things you just know. When I read the phrase, the secret identity of the universe, in Bianca's poem, I knew that I wanted it on my skin. Over the years, I've come to believe that every individual has a secret identity, an amalgamation of hidden desires, clandestine resentments, and unyielding hope. Each tattoo I've chosen to procure, as is the case with most I suspect, has been to mark a rite of passage. The poem, coupled with the outreach component of the project, worked on me immediately. When I saw the phrase that now sits embedded in my skin until I take my last breath upon this earth, I knew immediately that it had a visceral meaning that I could never articulate myself. Lexington, like its people, has a secret identity. The words speak to the difficulty of leading an authentic life. Because I am a gay man born and raised in rural Kentucky, my tattoo reminds me of all the wasted years I spent trying to be something that I was not. It reminds me of the importance of not having a secret identity, of the virtue of living out loud. It also reinforces my absolute conviction that each of us has all the makings of a hero, be it great or small.
So when we started the Lexington Tattoo Project, we had no idea we would make a book, but we did. It's a book of photographs and stories of the different tattoos. We did know we were going to make a video artwork, and that was our idea for the final tangible goal of the artwork, although we realized it's the stories and the relationships that in some ways are a lot more important than the video artwork. But we did make a video artwork, and we're going to show you a couple of minutes, and hopefully you'll understand, if you don't already understand, why we wanted to work with Bianca Spriggs. She not only writes beautiful poems, but reads beautifully. So you'll hear the voice of Bianca Spriggs reading the poem. Ben Sully composed the music for the video to accompany her voice and her poetry. So 2 minutes.
It was beyond midnight when she showed up at the crossroads of the universe, his back door. and asked him to take her on the Sunday drive of the universe, a ride through back roads out past Elkhorn Creek. It would be the honeymoon of the universe, just like the night she wore the sequin leotard of the universe, a neon wig, and her favorite leopard print heels, but lost one at the truck stop of the universe, the Dane, which tended to smell like the armpit of the universe, a careless night out with friends. She blushed at the mating call of the universe, his suggestion that instead they throw a dance party for two, as bottom shelf as the underrated wine of the universe, the cheap seats on the opening day of Keeneland. He told her that the first time seeing the secret identity of the universe, her, under the golden ginkgo tunnel on Catalpa Street, felt like finding the long-lost left sock of the universe, the perfect peach in the farmer's market before brunch on a Saturday after the B-list cult movie of the universe, Rocky Horror, the night before at the Kentucky Theater, the wishbone of the universe. And perhaps a stroll past Triangle Park's cascading fountain could be a quest to discover the middle name of the universe, all the daydreams they'd ever dreamed to light the city up like the signal flare of the universe, a handful of lightning bugs backed by a choir of cicadas, the roadside attraction of the universe. She knew his gravitational pull would lead to nothing but the hangover of the universe, wandering around downtown, all the way from Charlie Brown's The Candy Heart of the Universe to the Lexington Cemetery.
Shortly after we finished the Lexington Tattoo Project, we were invited to do a similar work in Boulder because people in Boulder, not surprisingly, also love their home. These images are from Boulder. You'll see that the circles and dots that surrounded the words in Lexington are replaced by stars and dots in Boulder. And in each city, if you photograph all of the healed tattoos and reassemble them into the format of the poem, those symbols, in this case stars, create a secret image as well. So everyone wears a part of the poem written by a local poet and also a part of a secret image that is representative of the city. We're currently finishing up work on the Cincinnati Tattoo Project, and you'll see the stars now are replaced by triangles because Cincinnati is the city of 7 hills. And hills are triangles. Everybody knows that. They're also representative of carrots because the organization that's kind of spearheading it is called Artworks and Art. Artworks loves carrots. A for Artworks is created with a carrot. So our most recent and ongoing tattoo project is called Love Letter to the World. And this is the result of a challenge by a participant in the Lexington Tattoo Project. In fact, a challenge by the person whose narrative I read, who said to us, just out of pure joy on the night of the video release, a challenge that we imagine what this would be like on a global scale. Can we fit this into a love letter to the world? And so we did what we had done before. We approached a poet and started with a poem. We asked poet Frank X. Walker, who's on the faculty at University of Kentucky and a former Kentucky Poet Laureate, and asked him with the knowledge that writing a love letter to the entire world is a daunting task. And Frank responded coolly, as he always does, I've done much bigger things. So he wrote a poem. The difference with this project is that as people download their tattoo designs all over the world, they get the tattoos and they upload photographs themselves. So with this time, we've realized again that it's about stories, but in this way, stories are often carried by the pictures.
And that is Ernie Ray, and I'm going to tell you his story, but before that I should mention that one of the tattoos was in Japanese, and I think some people in the audience could understand it. So because it's a global tattoo project, people can send us a translation of any of the words of the poem or phrases of the poem in a language of their choice. We redesign the tattoo in that language and we send it back to them. So there are a number of tattoos in different languages. But this is Ernie Ray, and we met Ernie here in Lexington. He participated in the Lexington Tattoo Project. Ernie and his wife heard about the Lexington Tattoo Project right after we had given away all the words and phrases from Bianca's poem. But they still wrote to us, and they said, you know, we haven't even read the poem. We just love Lexington. We really want to participate. Is there a waiting list? And we said, sure, we'll make a waiting list, and you're on the top of the waiting list. And then a comma became available. The only comma is part of Bianca's poem that we had set aside as a separate tattoo. So we gave it to Ernie, and it was his first and last tattoo, and he really loved it. And then the Boulder Tattoo Project happened, and in Boulder, the poem had a lot of commas. And so participants got phrases, 2 or 3 words with a comma, and a few people asked, could they drop their commas? And we said, that's fine. We wanted people to love their tattoos. And then at the end, we ended up with about 12 commas, which we forgot about, until people from the waiting list wrote to the project manager in Boulder and asked if they could pay for their own comma and participate in the project in that way. And we decided that that was fine. We had used up all the funds we had to pay for tattoos, and so for $20, they could get a comma and participate in the Boulder Tattoo Project. All of this was announced on Facebook, as all of these artworks tend to happen on Facebook, and Ernie saw that, and he wrote to us saying, could he get a Boulder Tattoo Project comma and pay for it here in Lexington, and also pay for someone else in Boulder, so that he would pay for their comma. He ended up paying for this participant's comma. And then he wrote to us again and said, well, can I always get a comma from any of the tattoo projects you make? So we committed to always having a tattoo that's a comma that Ernie can get. And in turn, he committed to always paying it forward for someone from that tattoo project. And Ernie paid for the comma of the woman in the upper right corner. She got her comma, and a few weeks later she wrote to us saying that she wanted to pay it forward for someone else. And now we have a chain of commas. People will get a comma sponsored by someone else, and then they'll sponsor somebody else's comma. And they just love being connected in this artwork in an additional way as well.
We also want to end with a short clip recreated from the Love Letter to the World, so you can see what that will look like in the end.
Liefdesbrief aan uw wereld. Een vertaling van Frank X. Walker. It's a love letter to the world.
I love you, world. Love your 7 different faces. Love your healing waters wide and deep. Love the thing you have with the sun and the moon, and what it teaches us about companionship, about change, about revolution. Love the mirror at your navel, how it shows off your hemispheres, illustrating important lessons about balance, about reflection, about centering ourselves. Love how much like little worlds we are, how our earthquake is your shiver, your sneeze a tsunami, an avalanche, a mudslide.
Love letter to the world, why don't you come along and ride with me, hey, hey.
And this video is not finished yet, so we would love for more people to participate. Thank you.